You're watching QTV broadcasting from the Gambia, and this is the news with me, Mamadou Gajaga. Coming up, UDP leader Ousainou Darboe blames imposters and miscreants for disrupting the recently held West Coast Regional Party Congress. Political science lecturer Dr. Ismaila Ceesay receives International Leadership Award. And lawmakers undergo capacity building on parliamentary action to implement and monitor the Sustainable Development Goals. Those are our headlines, and now the news in detail. UDP leader Ousainou Darboe has blamed imposters and miscreants for disrupting the recently held West Coast Regional Party Congress. In a press release on Wednesday, Darboe condemned the behavior of individuals whom he claimed were not members of the United Democratic Party. Scuffles broke out last Saturday at the party's Congress in Brikama when some delegates were apparently denied the opportunity to take part in the voting process. Footage of the incident shows property being damaged. The release warns that any individual or group that attempts to disrupt, distort, or interfere with the internal party democracy matter will be dealt with swiftly to the full extent of the party's disciplinary rigorous based on the rules and regulations of the UDP. For more on this story, QTV's Sergio Brito has been speaking to the party's spokesperson, Almami Tal.
What are the facts and circumstances surrounding this incident?
The facts are that on the 18th of November, the United Democratic Party regional branch in West Coast region was supposed to have its Congress. On the back of that event was that every constituency, 12 in number in the West Coast region, had their constituency congresses. Some issues came up, but the 12 constituencies have new chairmen. In some of the constituencies, the chairmen were retained, and as a result, they were coming together to have a regional congress. And this congress was supposed to elect the regional unit of the party in the West Coast region. West Coast region, as you know, is the biggest region in the country. It has 12 parliamentary seats, and therefore there is a lot of population there. There is a lot of membership of the United Democratic Party there. What actually happened on the day itself were some people who were defeated in their constituency congresses and they are not recognized as legitimate chairmen, came up with their own delegations and they insisted that they are going to participate in the regional congress. Unfortunately, the police who were giving notice of the event, who were also giving us the permit to hold the event, advised us that because of the situation out there, there is the risk of violence or accidents happening, and they will not be in a position to protect a peaceful holding of the Congress.
There has been a lot of reports lately of party disintegration. How true are those reports, and how do you respond to them as the party spokesperson?
These reports are entirely untrue. Clearly, there are people who still want to occupy positions within the UDP hierarchy, who still want to be identified with the UDP. But I can say clearly here that the United Democratic Party of the Gambia is a united party under the leadership of Alhaji Ousainou Darboe, and he has been the leader of the party since its founding. And he has served this country in an outstanding way. He is the known leader, he is the only leader, and there are those who are raising their voice and suggesting otherwise. But I can tell you without any iota of doubt that the United Democratic Party is united, and the executive is planning to have a meeting next week, inshallah, to make sure that those people who are nothing but troublemakers and impostors are dealt with according to the rules and regulations of the party. The party is not going to take this lying down. Any talk or rumors about disunity or disintegration of the party is entirely false.
Political science lecturer Dr. Ismaila Ceesay has been awarded by the PanAfrican Humanitarian Award for Excellence in Social Leadership and Community Impact. Dr. Cisse, who lectures at the University of the Gambia, received the award at the 4th Pan-African Humanitarian Summit held in Rabat, Morocco. The award, according to the organizers, is based on Dr. Cisse's outstanding leadership qualities, exceptional contribution and persistent efforts to Africa's development through several bold policies and innovative initiatives geared towards building a prosperous, sustainable, regional, integrated, global, competitive Gambia and by extent Africa. QTV's Aliou Cisse spoke to Dr. Ismaila Cisse earlier on.
Well, the award is for, it recognizes the work that Africans do in Africa, in the Pan-African spirit, to promote women empowerment, youth empowerment, community impact. So what they do is they look around the continent and identify people who are really whose work is impacting their community, and then you are recognized and awarded.
What does this award mean for you and the Gambia?
For me, it's a challenge personally. It doesn't only recognize the work we are doing, but it also challenges us to do more. I mean, then you come to realize that now some people are really observing what you are doing. Therefore, it means that now you have the challenge to do more. People have confidence in you, and you should not betray this confidence. So for me, for the Gambia, I think it's huge. To have a son of the land to receive such a regional award, I think this is big for the Gambia.
So what next for you?
What next for me is to continue to do what we are doing, and even to do more, to make sure that our work impacts our community, people's lives. Like I say, it's a challenge. It means that we have more work to do. Sometimes these awards are not more of recognition. They are more of challenging you, encouraging you to do more. So now this is kind of a motivation for me to really know that, okay, I'm doing some work that people have recognized. Now I need to do more so that I can really deserve the award. For me, I don't deserve it now. I deserve it later on after doing more work.
Who are you dedicating this award to?
Like I said on my Twitter post, I dedicate it to all women of Africa, to all young people of Africa. And I particularly dedicate it to all those young lives lost in the seas, trying to reach destination Europe for greener pastures.
Lawmakers are undergoing a 2-day capacity building workshop on parliamentary action to implement and monitor the Sustainable Development Goals. The training is funded by the UNDP. QTV Anzumana Esonyasi was at the opening ceremony, and he now reports.
In September 2015, world leaders agreed on the Agenda 2030 Declaration and adopted the Sustainable Development Goals, otherwise known as the SDGs, with a view to eliminating poverty and inequality by 2030 within planetary limits. Among these goals is SDG 16, which focuses on peace, good governance and human rights, envisaging effective, inclusive, accountable institutions. In its drive to localize the 2030 agenda through aligning the National Development Plan to the SDGs goals and targets, the National Assembly, with support from the UNDP, has commenced a 2-day training of parliamentarians on monitoring and implementing the SDGs. In her launch statement, the Speaker of the National Assembly said the training will help MPs understand their roles towards the implementation of the SDGs.
The paradigm shift in the operations of the National Assembly could not have been done at a better time, as the implementation of the NDP as aligned to the SDGs has a direct bearing on the oversight functions of the National Assembly. This training is therefore envisaged to provide honorable National Assembly members and technical staff of the Assembly the opportunity to understand both the National Development Plan as well as the Sustainable Development Goals.
For his part, the National Policy Advisor Office of the President, Sereng Falunjai, enjoined Parliament to appropriate more resources toward the successful implementation of the NDP programs and SDG targets.
A plan is as good as the resources that are available to implement it. And we know parliamentarians have this very, very important role of appropriating resources for the various development programs. Therefore, we need the support of parliamentarians for us to be able to realize the SDGs. And then finally is the oversight role that you have. Because at the end of the day, we need to consistently follow up, review, evaluate, and measure progress. And this is an important role that parliamentarians need to play.
Speaking earlier, the UN resident representative, Ms. Seraphine Wakana, said the UNDP recognizes the need to enhance Parliament's capacity as the principal accountability institution of all organs of state.
Strengthening the National Assembly to effectively execute its constitutional mandate demands collaboration and partnerships. We will continue to work closely with international and national development partners to support the National Assembly. I would also like to acknowledge the role of civil society organizations, academia, and the media in continuously advocating for a stronger, effective, and inclusive National Assembly.
To effectively champion the implementation and monitor the Sustainable Development Goals, enhancing Parliament's understanding of the SDGs, localizing and mainstreaming the SDGs within National Assembly mechanisms, and ensuring that the SDGs serve the most vulnerable, which includes social inclusion, should be a priority. Ansumana Esonyasi for QTV News.
Africa Rising, a Pan-African movement, is engaging civil society organizations, CRC, academics and activists on the constitutional review process of the Gambia. Aliou Cisse witnessed the opening at the Nana Hall, and he now prepares this report.
The two-day stakeholders engagement brings together members of the Constitution Review Commission, civil society organizations, academics and youth and women activists. The CSO's engagement is expected to provide participants the opportunity to interact with members of the Commission, ask questions and give feedback to the Commission. Africans Rising is a Pan-African movement of people and organizations launched in May 2016, working for peace, justice and dignity for Africans within and outside the continent. Gambian-born Mohamed Lamin Sedikan is the African Rising coordinator, and for him, the Constitution is the most important document currently as it determines how the country should be run.
What we need on the continent is a Pan-African movement. The Pan-African movement that will respond to the needs of African people when they're in crisis. We ask ourselves, how do we name this movement? We agreed that this movement needs to be named to challenge the narrative of Africa is rising, which looks at the GDP rise, which also look at the rise of the few individual Africans who are enriching themselves by plundering the resources of Africa, also plundering the resources of Africa with the people from outside the continent. As we are talking now, there is a rush on Africa. Everywhere around the world is coming to Africa to sustain themselves. So we realize that the people of Africa need to rise for Africa to achieve its potential.
Boniface Mwangi, 35-year-old Kenyan activist and Africans Rising ambassador, says the Gambia needs a human-centered constitution that will see everyone equal. He warns against leaving the entire review process to politicians who, according to him, are not to be trusted.
So Yahya Jammeh was able to do the things that he did because he had supporters in the government or people working for him, and he had a constitution that was allowing him to do some of those things. And so you're in a very critical moment as a country to come up with a new constitution. And I would like to say this, you cannot trust politicians to give you a good constitution. Politicians think on election cycles. They're very selfish and very self-centered. Yahya Jammeh was one person, but the things that he did in this country, he wasn't doing them alone. He had supporters and he had people working for him. So as you amend the constitution and you try to get a new document, you must look at what in those laws allowed him to do the things that he did. And as you do the Truth and Reconciliation Commission at the moment, there's no word justice in that process. So I wonder, once you have the truth and you reconcile, where's the justice? So as you amend the constitution and as you sit down to deliberate in the next 2 days, you need to look back and say what was in the laws that that were actually existing right now, because it's still in place, that were allowing these things to happen, and you amend them. The Constitution is actually an aspirational document. It's a document that you're working on to what you aspire the country to be. We make a mistake of doing a Constitution for now because you're in this particular moment, but you have to think about a Constitution that actually endures to many, many years to come.
The CRC is currently on a nationwide consultation tour, and for the highly followed activists and photojournalists also take part in the review process. Dr. Ismaila Cisse, a political science lecturer at the University of the Gambia, calls for a durable constitution, which according to him, the civil society organizations have a big role to play, not only in the review process, but equally making people know the constitution.
We have to understand one thing, that over 65% of our population are below 35. They are young people. But I think the most important thing to consider also is that the median age of this country is 17. That means that over half of our population never lived in a free society because they were born under dictatorship. And this is very important. Therefore, we need to create a constitution that is durable. We have to understand that we had the 1970 constitution, isn't it? It did not prevent the 81 coup. It did not prevent a 94 coup, isn't it? Yeah. We had a 97 constitution. It did not prevent dictatorship for 22 years. So therefore, I think for me, the focus is on how to create a constitution that is durable, that can last long, that will consider two things. That is the demographic dynamics. That is over 65% of the population are young, and over 50% of the population are women. Therefore, the new constitution must be considerate of this.
Cisse went further to suggest for the constitution to be translated into local languages and to be equally taught in schools. Other speakers, including Bubakan of Action Aid Gambia, Kumba Sanyang of Rural Women Assembly, and Africans Rising Ambassador Lala Toure, spoke on the importance of CSO's participation in the constitutional review process. Kumba Sanyang of Rural Women Assembly said the will-be new constitution should cater for women to have equal access to lands as their male counterparts. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cisse.
The Ministry of Fisheries, Water Resources and National Assembly Matters, in collaboration with the Confederation of Artisanal Fisheries Professional Organization, on Wednesday celebrated the 2018 World Fisheries Day at the Makati Square in Banjul. Omar P. Jallo reports.
The theme for this year's World Fisheries Day celebration is defining a Pan-African agenda for sustainable artisanal fisheries. Prior to this year's celebrations of the World Fisheries Day, CAOPA organized a two-day workshop at the Atlantic Hotel in Banjul, from where a declaration was made on the sustainable management of artisanal fisheries. Participants has established a Pan-African agenda for sustainable artisanal fisheries, which will be brought to the level of the African Union by artisanal fisheries stakeholders through the non-state actors platform. This agenda will be elaborated to contribute to the preparations of the International Year of Artisanal Fisheries and Aquaculture in Africa in 2022. James Gomez is the Minister of Fisheries, Water Resources and National Assembly Matters of the Gambia.
I want to thank CAOPA for organizing the artisanal fishermen and women. And as I sit here and listen to your declaration, I'm asking myself, how many declarations have been made in the past? And how much are we going to use this declaration? Your membership must take the responsibility to see that this resolution declaration is not only implemented in the Gambia, but implemented in all the African countries that are part of your membership. That's the only way a resolution becomes beneficial to our people. As you go back to your respective countries, it is my hope that our Gambian men and women who are involved in the artisanal fisheries will come together more closely and come to our ministry and our department, look at our strategy and our development plans in collaboration with FAO and get a more solid plan for the Gambia artisanal fisheries.
The FAO Country Resident Coordinator Papekua Katepa Kalala highlighted the FAO's recent support to the fisheries sector and assured them of their continuous support and partnership to smallholder businesses.
On behalf of Mr. Jose Graciano da Silva, the Director General of FAO, I wish to thank the government and the people of the Gambia for graciously accepting to host this important event. I also wish to congratulate and thank our colleagues of the African Confederation of Artisanal Fisheries, professional organizations, CAOPA, for organizing this celebration and also the workshop that has taken place over the last couple of days. Mr. Chairman, according to FAO statistics, fisheries and aquaculture is a major sector for food security and nutrition. The global production of fish, crustaceans, mollusks, and other aquatic animals continues to increase, reaching 170 million tons in 2016, so a huge amount. Of this, total capture production was 90 million tons, and aquaculture was about 80 million tons in 2016. And the important thing to note is this was an increase of about 5% from the previous year. So there's significant increases that are being seen in the sector. The most recent official statistics indicate that about 60 million people are engaged in the primary sector of capture fisheries and aquaculture. This was in 2016, with about 19 million people engaged in aquaculture and 40 million people engaged in fisheries.
Other speakers include the president of CAOPA, Gusonu Gay, Francisco Mari of the Bread for the Wall, and Sibatin Martin of CISF. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
Before we end this bulletin, we recap our main headlines. UDP leader Ousainou Darboe has blamed imposters and miscreants for disrupting the recently held West Coast Regional Party Congress. In a press release issued on Wednesday, Darboe condemned the behavior of individuals whom he claimed were not members of the United Democratic Party. Political science lecturer Dr. Ismaila Ceesay has been awarded by the Pan-African Humanitarian Award for Excellence in Social Leadership and Community Impact. The award, according to the organizers, is based on Dr. Ceesay's outstanding leadership qualities, exceptional contribution, and persistent efforts to Africa's development through several bold policies and innovative initiatives geared towards building a prosperous, sustainable, regionally integrated, global, competitive Gambia and by extension Africa. And lawmakers are undergoing a 2-day capacity building workshop on parliamentary action to implement and monitor the Sustainable Development Goals. The training is funded by the UNDP. That's all we have for you in this edition of the news. Join us tomorrow for more news.